Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Performing and Visual Arts, SOPVA. Diploma programs, Diploma in Theatre Arts, DTH, BTH1 Understanding Drama, Block-1 Drama and Introduction, Unit-1 Drama and Theatre. 1.0 Objectives. The aim of this unit is to familiarize the readers with the origin of drama, and to highlight the role and significance of theatre as a distinct practice. Drama has its roots in the oral literature of Greek theatre and religio-social life of the Athenian people. As time passed, this initial beginning of performative behavior gave way to dance drama, which in turn poured way for formal written and performed plays. This unit intends to focus on the origin and growth of drama and, later, emphasizes the different kinds of use of stage that evolved in the last few centuries. The soul of drama is its spectators. Thus the audience plays a vital and pivotal role, for the aim and purpose of drama/theatre is performance. 1.1 Introduction. Drama is a literary composition involving conflict, action, crisis and atmosphere meant to be acted by players on a stage before an audience. This definition may be applied to motion picture drama as well as to the traditional stage. In Abrams' words, drama is the form of composition designed for performance in the theatre, in which actors take the roles of the characters, perform the indicated action and utter the written dialogue. Thus the essential ingredients of a drama are actors, dialogue, setting, plot and action. It is primarily meant for enactment on the stage. Thus the stage and the spectators are equally important. Marjorie Bolton says that a true play is three-dimensional. It is literature that walks and talks before our eyes. A drama operates within the limits and framework of space and time. It is distinguished from other literary forms by its special, complex relationship to the reality we call time. As a narrative art, it addresses to the telling of events which take place in the past, present or future. But as a performing art, along with music and dance, it has its existence in time. Thus it is a temporal act. Drama can never be a subject of purely literary study. It has to be known in relation to the stage, to the theatre. Tom F. Driver writes, "The act of performing the play in the theatre becomes a miniature reflection of historical action taking place within the limit imposed by the conventions of the theatre. This will be particularly true in those dramatic periods, such as the Greek and the Elizabethan, where the theatre was frankly accepted as the locus of the action and where there was not an attempt to black out both audience and theatre. The theatre tends to reflect the assumptions of its age regarding time and history, because it is on the one hand a narrative of temporal events, and on the other hand, an enactment taking place within a moment of time. The mimetic instinct is confined to no single nation. It is universal in its appeal and reveals itself as one of the most primitive of human emotions. It is the earliest of imitative arts. Drama may be defined as a well-told cohesive story presented in action. Compton Rickett writes, "It must be articulate, that is, spoken, for a pantomime is a story in action, and the orator who declares may give us an articulate story, though not necessarily in action. For effective drama, conflict of some kind is essential. If the conflict be a trivial one, we get a farce. If a serious one, ending happily for hero and heroine, we have a comedy. If a serious one with an unhappy ending, we term it a tragedy." 1.2 Origins of drama/theatre. 2500 years ago, Western theatre was born in Athens, Greece. Between 600 and 200 B.C., the ancient Athenians created a theatre culture whose form, technique and terminology have lasted 2 millennia, and they created plays that are still considered among the greatest works of world drama. Their achievement is truly remarkable when one considers that there have been only 2 other periods in the history of theatre that could be said to approach the greatness of ancient Athens, Elizabethan England and the 20th century. The theatre of ancient Greece evolved from religious rites which date back to at least 1200 BC. At that time Greece was peopled by tribes that we in our arrogance might label primitive. In northern Greece, in an area called Thrace, a cult arose that worshipped Dionysus, the god of fertility and procreation. The cult of Dionysus practiced ritual celebration. The cult's most controversial practice involved, it is believed, uninhibited dancing and emotional displays that created an altered mental state. This altered state was known as ecstasies. Ecstasy was an important religious concept to the Greeks, who would come to see theatre as a way of releasing powerful emotions. Though it met with resistance, the cult spread through the tribes of Greece. Dionysiac, hysteria and catharsis also derive from Greek words for emotional release or purification. During this time, the rites of Dionysus became mainstream and more formalized and symbolic. An essential part of the rites of Dionysus was the dithyramb. The word means choric hymn. This chant or hymn was probably introduced into Greece early, accompanied by mimic gestures, and probably music. It began as a part of a religious ceremony, like a hymn, describing the adventures of Dionysus. It was performed by a chorus of men, group of dancers, and band of revelers. In this way, over a period of time, dithyramb evolved into stories in play form now known as drama. Greek theatre. By 600 BC in Greece, the most prominent city-state was Athens. It was here that the rites of Dionysus evolved into theatre. In about 600 B, Arian of Mahatarnar, Corinth, wrote down formal lyrics for the dithyramb. Later Thespis of Attica, Athens, added an actor who interacted with the chorus. This actor was called the protagonist, meaning the main character of a drama. When Thespis, the director of choruses, his face smeared with white lead, perhaps in simulation of the dead god, stood on a table and addressed the leader of the chorus, dialogue was born in Greece. With his inspired step, Thespis also created the classic actor as distinct from the dancer. His table, which probably served as an altar for animal sacrifice, was the first inkling of a stage as distinguished from the primitive dancing circle. In time, a second speaker was introduced and one moved from one art to another, from choric chant to theatre. Gradually the leaders of the dithyramb could include other related details taken from the many tales of ancestral and local heroes which were being recited by poets. The words associated with dithyrambic dances became elaborate and dramatic plot was introduced. In 534 BC, Pisistratus, the ruler of Athens, instituted drama competitions. These competitions became popular annual events. A government authority called the archon chose the competitors and the Kaegos, wealthy patrons, financed the productions. The theatre was constructed: the theatre of Delphi, the Attic theatre, and the theatre of Dionysus in Athens. In fact, the word theatre derives from the Greek word theatron, which referred to the wooden spectator stands erected on the hillsides, and the word orchestra is derived from the Greek word for a platform between the raised stage and the audience on which the chorus was situated. Thespis, who acquired a theatre building where his plays, he was the first prize-winning playwright in 535 BC, were performed in a permanent circular dancing ground of stone with a stone temple in the background. Plays in those days were performed in the daytime. Actors wore little or no makeup. There was no scenery. Actors wore masks and buskins, leather boots laced up to the knees. Until 484 BC, the Athenian drama competitions consisted of a trilogy of dithyrambs and a satyr play. Their style of presentation was choral rather than dramatic. Around 484 BC there appeared on the Athenian theatre scene a playwright named Aeschylus. He introduced props and scenery and reduced the chorus from 50 to 12. Aeschylus' Purgens, written in 472 BC, is the earliest play in existence. His crowning work was the Orestia, which tells the legend of Agamemnon, the Greek war hero who was murdered by his wife Clytemnestra and the pursuit of justice by his children, Orestes and Electra. Thematically, it is about the tragedy of excessive human pride, arrogance or hubris. Aeschylus is also known as the father of tragedy. Of the 92 plays of Aeschylus, only 7 have come down to us. Hundreds of scattered fragments and comments provide an inkling of some of the subjects he treated. He is a master of the picturesque. His characters are colorful creatures, many of them supernatural, barbaric, and his speech is metaphorical. Prometheus Bound is an unforgettable work as its theme was God himself. He turned from the drama of God to the drama of man in his last 2 tragedies, of which one is Agamemnon. In 468 BCE, Aeschylus was defeated in the tragedy competition by Sophocles. Sophocles' contribution to drama was the addition of actors, and an emphasis on drama between humans rather than between humans and gods. He was a fine craftsman. He won 20 competitions. He experimented, tried different styles and struggled painstakingly for perfection. He used only one play for each plot and was consequently constrained to pack all his actions into it. In all respects, the shorter form offered the greater dramatic possibilities. His works bear a strong resemblance to the architecture and sculpture of his time, which favored small temples and statues of gods who are not much larger than well-built human beings. Sophocles is precise rather than rhapsodic. It is noteworthy that Sophocles is the first writer known to have used some comic details in his tragedies, a procedure that could only be motivated by a desire for contrast and variety. He is a master of the device of tragic suspense and tragic irony, of which Oedipus the King is a supreme example. Oedipus at Colonus, Antigone and Philoctetes are the other well-known works. Another contemporary Greek playwright was Euripides. His plays were about real people. He placed peasants alongside princes and gave their feelings equal weight. He showed the reality of war, criticized religion, and portrayed the forgotten of society: women, slaves and old people. Euripides is credited with adding to the dramatic form the prologue, which set the stage at the beginning of the play. He managed to create the most forceful realism and social criticism of the classic stage. The Trojan women, Medea, Hippolytus, Cyclops and Alcestis are the well-known plays of Euripides. Tragedy was not the only product of Athenian theatre, but comedy also thrived at the time. Greek comedy had two periods: Old Comedy, represented by Cratinus and Aristophanes, and New Comedy, whose main exponent was Menander. Aristophanes' theatrical works were presented at the Athenian festivals. He used 3 actors, a chorus that sang, danced and sometimes participated in the dialogue. His first 2 comedies, The Banqueters and The Babylonians, were lost, but it is known that they were a satire on new education and a political satire respectively. The Atrinians is the world's first anti-war comedy. His other comedies include The Wasps on Deterioration of Athens, Peace and Anti-Imperialistic Comedy, The Frogs, and Plutus. The use of overt satire, topicality and the pointed lampooning of celebrated characters to be found in Aristophanes' style were replaced by mistaken identities, ironic situations, ordinary characters and wit. Menander is the more significant name in the New Comedy. His main contribution was to create a comedy model that greatly influenced later comedy. His characters were not celebrities but ordinary people. The chorus resembled modern chorus singers and dancers who provided fillers between acts. They were also portrayed as drunken audience members. His characters were classic comedy archetypes. Emphasis on mistaken identity, romance and situational humor became the model for subsequent comedy, from the Romans to Shakespeare to Broadway. His talent is witnessed in his comedy of errors, The Girl from Sarmosa, The Sharing of Glycera and The Arbitration. The work of Menander was reincarnated in the Latin comedies of Plautus and Terence. 1.3 Growth of drama. Gassner writes, "There is not a single human impulse, moral or otherwise, that cannot be associated with the growth of the stage. The masters of the drama are the children of life." The first playwright began indeed as a player and a magic maker, but he gradually took the whole world of experience and thought for his field. In copying movements or gestures, repeating sounds, and employing human, animal and even vegetable disguises, primitive man was instinctively bringing himself in touch with his environment. And in playing he was not only discharging excess energy but preparing himself for purposeful action. Man danced out his desires until the pantomimic dance became the most finished early form of drama. The playwright leads the pantomime since the form and execution of the performances requires a guiding intellect. He is also a social philosopher, for it is he who organizes the performance as a commercial activity and extends the psychological reality of commune. From Greece, the stage was passed on to Rome. With the fall of Rome in the 4th century, the theatre virtually vanished. Drama in England does not begin until the 10th century. The medieval theatre also developed out of the religious services. It was the creation of the church. Thus it is true to say that the cradle of the drama rested on the altar. The clergy were obliged to find some method of teaching and explaining to the ignorant masses the doctrinal truths of religion. The gospel stories were illustrated by a series of living pictures in which the performers acted the story in dumb show. In the next stage the actors spoke as well as acted their parts. These early plays were known as mysteries and miracles. The former were stories taken from the scripture narrative while the latter are plays dealing with incidents in the lives of saints and martyrs. Drama is inherent in the very ritual of the church, and the Mass itself was a factor in the dramatic development. Miracle plays grew out of the liturgy itself, with its solemn rites and the chants alternating between priest and congregation. They began as short dialogues, recited at first inside the church. These dialogues developed into title plays acted in the church porch. One of the most important was the play of Adam, written in the 12th C by Norman. It is in 3 parts, showing the fall of Adam and Eve, the death of Abel, and the line of prophets announcing the advent of the Savior. This play was written in French. Another important play was Noah, about Noah finishing the ark, informing his wife and begging her to enter the ark. Thus the plays unfolded scenes from the scriptures, depicted scenes from the life of Christ, and celebrated holy days like Christmas, Easter or Corpus Christi. Certain towns, either by reason of the importance of their fairs, or through the more powerful organization of their trade guilds, became noted for the presentation of their miracle plays. These cycle plays were known by the names of the places where they were shown: Chester, York, Coventry, Norwich, Newcastle, and Wakefield. The guilds played an important part in the powerful organization. One of the most touching plays is that of Abraham and Isaac. Mystery and miracle plays gave way to moralities and interludes. In the mystery and miracle plays, serious and comic elements were interwoven. Now they part, the morality presenting the serious and the interlude the lighter side of things. The characters typified certain qualities: sin, grace, repentance. Moralities emanate from allegory. Bible characters are replaced by abstract virtues and vices personified. Their aim was primarily the teaching of the Christian faith. If in the miracle plays the scenes had a movable pageant, the moralities required a fixed stage. The moralities were concerned with wider issues and showed human life wavering between good and evil, between God and the devil. Well-known plays were Cast of Perseverance, Everyman, and Mankind. The protagonist was mankind at large. If on one side were grouped the person of evil angel and his minions, the 7 deadly sins, then on the other side were the good angel and the divine graces. Thus the debate was between sin, jealousy, malice, gluttony, etc., and mercy, justice, peace, truth, etc. The persons of the mystery plays were nearly all given individual names, and the drama was rooted in reality. The performances consisted of a group of local amateurs who formed an association for the specific purpose of acting, in other words, a 15th-century amateur dramatic society. The 3 plays mentioned above were pointers to the varied courses that drama looked to. The miracle plays ceased to be acted about 1600, but by that time the regular drama was established. No masterpiece was produced during the years 1520 to 1578 AD. Interludes were comic dialogues, and Hayward's interludes were popular as his originality consists in the fact that he avoids moralizing and aims at amusement. The best known is the 4 Ps: Palmer, Pardoner, Apothecary, and Peddler. Hayward's The Merry Play between the Pardoner and the Friar was also very popular. Such interludes indicate that an effort was made to combine good healthy instruction with much comic business. The first English drama was Gorboduc, written by Sackville and Norton and played before Elizabeth at Whitehall in 1562. When published it was called Ferrex and Porrex. The tragic story is divided into 5 acts. Norton wrote the 4th and 5th. The action takes place behind the scenes, and each act ends with a chorus, in imitation of the Tragedies of Seneca. It is written in blank verse and treats of an episode il national. History. The first regular English comedy was produced in 1553 by Nicholas Udall and was titled Ralph Roister Doister. Udall is justly entitled as the father of English comedy. The play is neither farce nor debate but is a comedy full of incident and intrigue, well ordered and well planned. Gamma Gurton's Needle is the second English comedy written by Mr. S. The foundation of a truly national theatre was helped by the formation of companies of professional players. In 1576, the first theatre was built in Shoreditch. Gradually the Rose, the Swan, the Globe and the Fortune were built. 1.4 Types of stage drama has undergone significant changes with passage of time. Stage types also changed and have thus required different forms of acting. Drama, period-wise, can be classified into broad categories as follows. 1. Classical theatre, Greek and Roman. 2. Native drama, 1066 to 1503. Renaissance drama, 1500 to 1660. Elizabethan drama, Shakespeare and contemporaries. B. Jacobean and Caroline. 4. The Neoclassical period or Restoration drama, 1660 to 1705. Drama in LS, 19th and 20th century.
Greek theatre. Plays in ancient Greece were staged in amphitheatres, which were marked by a round stage about 3/4 surrounded by the audience. Since amphitheatres were very large and could hold great masses of people, up to 25,000, the actors could hardly be seen from far back, and for this reason, acting included speaking in a loud, declamatory voice, wearing masks and symbolical costumes and acting with large gestures. The chorus was a vital part of ancient drama. It had the function of commenting on the play as well as giving warning and advice to characters. The stage scenery was neutral and was accompanied by the real landscape surrounding the amphitheatre. Plays were performed in daylight. Ancient Greek drama was performed on special occasions like religious ceremonies, and it thus had a more ritual, symbolic and also didactic purpose. The audience consisted only of free men, slaves and women were excluded. The theatre in Epidavros, theatre in stone. The theatre at Epidavros shows on open-air Greek theatre, with seats for the audience hewn out on the slope of a hill. The most prominent feature of the theatre is the large dancing circle, or orchestra, for the chorus. At the side to the right is one of the passageways or paradoi, affording entrance and exit for the chorus and processions. At the back are the ruins of the stone scene building, the skene, which could represent a temple or a palace, and served as a permanent scenic background for the stage productions. During 5th century BC, the skene became a 2-story stone building where the upper story or episkenion was used for the stage machinery, by means of which the gods were lowered to the stage level. The front of the lower story had a colonnade or proscenion. Most of the acting transpired on a low platform in front of this structure, which had 3 doors and was flanked by projecting wings as parskenia. The theatre at Epidaurus belongs to the Hellenistic period, 4th century BC, but the above-mentioned architectural features were also present in the theatre of Dionysus. Gradually the stage production became elaborate. The skene was usually rectangular and divided into rooms. The front wall of the ground story had a series of pillars between which were set painted wooden panels or pinnacles. The actors usually performed on the 2nd story level, so that the stage was about a foot high and from 8 to 10 feet deep, running the entire length of the building. At the back of this stage stood the colonnaded front wall of the 2nd story, pierced by 3 doors, and served as the background. Between the columns of this upper colonnade, 2 pinnacles might be placed. There was less intermingling between the actors and the chorus. Later, under Roman influence, the Greek theatre underwent other modifications. The Stage or acting area was lower by a few feet but deeper. The frontage of the stage lost its colonnade but became a highly decorated scenic facade, and the orchestra was no longer a complete circle. Later, tragedy was stately and comedy was extravagant. The actors were trained in speech, dance and pantomime, native drama, medieval plays, mysteries and moralities were performed during religious festivities. They were staged on wagons, pageants, which stopped somewhere in the market place and were entirely surrounded by the audience. The close vicinity between actors and audience had to account for a way of acting. Actors took into account the everyday experiences. Rarely were the mystery plays exhibited anywhere except out of doors, and no attempt was made to construct for them any theatre within the church stations or locations. Seats, loci/places, domus/houses were in view of the method of stage representation called simultaneous setting or multiple setting. When the liturgical plays ceded their position to the mystery cycles, the seats or small platforms elaborated into mansions, sometimes made into little rooms by provision of curtains at the sides and back, sometimes decorated with carved or painted scenery, and the platea served its original function. The stationary set presented the mansions in a curving row facing the audience. The second involved the placing of the mansions on wheels, so that they became pageants, which could be drawn from spot to spot. The actors were amateur members of various guilds or companies who for a time put aside their labor to perform. They were generally paid for their services. Heaven and hell were represented either on left and right sides respectively or top and bottom. Costuming was not only gorgeous but imaginative. On a multiple stage live animals such as rabbits and lambs were employed. Placards were used. The attention of the audience was concentrated on gestures, delivery of numerous monologues and the many trades for effect. There were no actresses. Boys took the parts of women. The heterogeneous audience from the groundlings to courtiers were simple folk willing to be taught and edified. They appreciated the essentials of drama, life, pathos and humor. Apron stage. The Elizabethan stage was typically found in public theatres, i.e., plays were no longer performed outside. However, it was still open-air theatre. From 1580 to 1642 London. Theatres presented almost every day a number of plays both old and new, each one a medley of styles. Theatres were simple in structure, mostly circular in form. Within was a courtyard open to the sky, surrounded by 2 or 3 tiers of covered galleries. At one side of the courtyard projected a platform which formed the stage. In the center, on either side of the platform, 2 pillars supported the ceiling. At the back, between 2 doors which served for the entrance and exit of the actors, was another stage overlooked by a gallery with balcony and windows. In front of this rear stage was a movable curtain. There were no wings, only elementary accessories. The front stage served most purposes. On the bare stage the actors' performance was all important. The most common stage form in Renaissance England was the open stage, which was surrounded by the audience on 3 sides and there was still close vicinity between audience and actors. The vestigial platform was known as the apron and it stood in front of the proscenium arch and accommodated most of the acting. Playwrights wrote long speeches regularly into their plays, employed the embellishments of rhetoric, and made free use of asides and soliloquies. The Elizabethan theatre could hold up to 2,000 people and the audience was heterogeneous. Plays of the period typically combine various subject matters and modes because they attempted to appeal to as wide an audience as possible. The apron was cut down and was finally discarded entirely after the middle of the 19th century. Once the actor played close to the scenery within the setting, as became customary, he was disproportionately tall and the painted scenery looked false. Stage illusion deteriorated. Restoration stage. Theatres of the 17th and 18th centuries were considerably smaller than the Elizabethan theatre, held about 500 people. and performances took place in closed rooms with artificial lighting. Audience was seated in a fully illuminated room. The stage was closed in by a decorative frame and the distance between audience and actors was thus enlarged. There was no curtain and changes of scene had to take place on stage in front of the audience. The plays presented an idealized, highly stylized image of scenery, characters, language and subject of matter. Emergence of patent theatres and minor playhouses is a significant move of the drama in the 17th and 18th century. As the old tightly knit aristocratic society began to disintegrate and the middle classes started to enter the playhouses, the playhouse established its own tradition, which were passed on to the 19th century and even to the present day. Nicholl writes, 4 popular species of entertainment must be noted: the operatic, the spectacular, the terpsichorean and the mimic. The men and women liked show, music appealed to them and dances were appreciated. The ballad opera invented by John Gay exhibited that the tastes lay within the field of extravagant and satirical proscenium stage. The stage of the 19th and 20th centuries is called proscenium or picture frame stage because it is shaped in such a way that the audience watches the play as it would regard a picture. The ramp clearly separates actors and audience, and the curtain underlines this division. While the stage is illuminated during the performance, the auditorium remains dark, which also turns the audience into an anonymous mass. Since the audience is not disturbed and can fully concentrate, it became easier to create an illusion of real life in plays. Scenery is elaborate and true to life. More detailed stage props, lighting and sound system are possible due to new technologies. Multiple stages are operative simultaneously. The play is not just a drama but moves like a film as it creates the illusion of a story world as it could be in real life. There is a wide range of different types of stage in the present era, alongside the conventional proscenium stage or the modern street theatre. With passing time, dramatic power has heightened, artistry refined and situations secularized and universalized. 1.5 Summary. At the end of this unit, we are familiar with the role of theatre, the significance of theatre. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel for more updates, and we will see you with the next chapter.